Hi folks, welcome to my tutorial for the game Leaving Earth, focusing on ion thrusters. I'm not going to be covering how to get stuff into space because ion thrusters only work in space, but I will mention that some common ways to launch stuff from Earth. In one stage, you can use a Soyuz, will push one mass. Saturn will push 5 masses. And in two stage, you can use 2 Atlas rockets to push 1 mass, 2 Soyuz to push 7 mass, and 2 Saturns to push 20 mass. This walkthrough will be mirroring a play-by-forum game that I participated in. I'll have the link in the description so you can follow the breakdown of each turn. It has some nice, we show our work in each turn, so you can follow the math closer there. So what I'm going to be doing here is I have Yuri Gagarin. He's here on Venus, and luckily he has supplies, so he can harvest supplies and stay alive as long as needed, but he'd really like to get back home because he's living in this very cramped Vostok capsule, and that's not ideal. And so in order to do that, I've launched this spaceship here, which you'll see is made up of 2 ion thrusters, a Soyuz, and 2 Atlas rockets. That totals 19 mass, so I used 2 Saturns to get it up into Earth orbit. And let me just go over why this is a nice spacecraft to get someone back from Venus. So, like all good planning, you want to work backward. So, first of all, the hardest thing here is going to be getting the Vostok capsule off of Venus. The difficulty on Venus is 6. That's, besides Earth, that's the highest in the game. So right away I knew I was going to need something powerful, that Atlas probably wasn't going to do it. I also have to really pay attention to how long it's going to take to get Gagarin back to Earth, because each year it takes, I need another mass for food. In an ideal situation, it would just take 1 year to get to interplanet transfer and another year to get to Earth orbit. So 2 supplies would do it if I could just use whatever rockets I wanted, but the economy being tight, I'm gonna go with ion thrusters, and it's probably gonna take a little longer. But it shouldn't take longer than 2 years, I'll show you why, to get from Venus orbit to interplanets transfer. And then just if I time it right, I can send some more food to meet up at interplanets transfer, and he'll get back okay. So my math for getting him off Venus is 4 plus the Soyuz that I'm going to use, so 13 times 6 is 78, and that's less than the 80 that the Soyuz provides. 80. So that'll be all right. That'll work out as long as I can get the Soyuz to Venus without burning it, which is going to take all this other stuff. Right. So then, continuing the return trip, after Yuri's in space, I'm going to hook him up to the 2 ions I'm taking with, plus the Vostok, plus the 2 supplies. So that's a total of 6 mass. The difficulty here is 3, so 18 total thrust needed, and that's why it's going to take 2 years. So here, let's take a look at a spare ion card. Each ion provides 5 thrust per year. So I really like working with 2 at a time because then you've got 10 thrust per year. So with each of these steps being 18, well, actually this one will have eaten a food, and so it'll only be 15. It'll take 2 years to fire. Each ion will provide 10 thrust, and I have 2 of them for a total of 20 thrust. So the first step, 20 is more than 18, and for the second step, 20 is more than 15. So that works. So we'll use the Soyuz to get them off, and the ions in 2 steps of 2 years each, and then he drops down to Earth and has his parade. But we have to get those ions to him and the Soyuz. And so to do that, again, we're going to work backwards. Okay, so what are we bringing to Venus orbit? We're bringing a Soyuz and 2 ions. And so that's 11 mass over the 3 difficulty. It's 33. And that's going to be tricky with just 2 ions, because that would be 3 years plus a little more. So this is what I have the atlases for. I find atlases work really well with the math for going through interplanets transfer to, let's say, Ceres or Venus, because they give that extra boost to where you won't need another year or another ion thruster to make up the difference. So an Atlas rocket gives 27 thrust, which is kind of an awkward number, but it actually in this example turns out to work really well. I'm going to fire both ions and augment it with an Atlas for each step, each of these 3 difficulty steps to get to Venus. So assuming that we've already fired the 1, we're working backwards. It's going to be 15 times 3 is 45, and the thrust we're going to provide is 2 years of 2 ions. Is 2 times 2 times 5, so that's 20, plus an Atlas of 27 puts it at 47, is just over 45. So that works out nice. So going from Earth orbit to interplanets transfer, we'll have the full spaceship, weighs 19, times 3 is 57. And that's where it looks really nice. So we 57, we take off the 27 for firing that first Atlas, and then we have 30 left, which with 2 ions doing 5 each per year will be 3 years. Okay, so let's go ahead and walk through this. Now that we think it'll work, I've done the walkthrough of the math, but let's actually go ahead and do it. So I got some time tokens here. We're going to fire them. And by the way, I'm just assuming that all your tech is tested and fully reliable, especially the rockets. You definitely want to test that before risking your astronaut's life. The great thing about the ion thrusters is if they fail, then they're just damaged. You can't use them again until you repair them, but they don't blow up and cost you a lot in vaporized components and humans. You would lose them, just like with anything, if you're on a flyby or the interplanets transfer. That's where it's risky to have ion thrusters fail, because then you can't fire them again, and they spin out into the solar system. Okay, so I fired 2 ions and get rid of the Atlas, and that's gonna take 3 years. So I like to put them up here. So that's going to be sitting there for 3 years while I wait for it to go. And so, okay, let's tick. That's the end of that year. So we'll tick that off. But it's still got 2 years before we can even make another maneuver over to Venus. And that one's going to take 2 years. And maybe your opponents are getting ahead of you. Maybe time's running out on the solo game. So you want to speed it up a little. So you can actually send an even faster ship to rendezvous and add some engines. And that's what I did in the play-by forum game. In the next 2 years, while I was waiting for this one to get to Interplanets Transfer, so I bought a Saturn and some other ions with the, I was just waiting around. I had 50 million to do nothing with, so I put together this spaceship. It's got, as I mentioned, one Saturn can launch up to 5 payload direct to orbit. So boom, do that. Earth orbit. And then when I time it right, when this one has 1 time token left on it, I fire these. And they have to fire for at least 1 year. And they're going to come over and meet that one. Now the math for this one actually means that I don't have to fire all of them. So you see the mass is 4, the difficulty is 3, so I need a total of 12 thrust. Each one's giving 5. If I just fired all of them for 1 year, that'd be 20. That's more than enough, but I can actually only fire 3 of them if I want to, and that'll still be enough at 15. So put that there. Fires, now they both have 1 time token on them, and when the calendar clicks over, there they are together. No time tokens, and they can rendezvous. And that's really nice. So they'll rendezvous. And now I've got 6 ion thrusters on this ship. Let's just, okay, yep. And now it's only going to take 1 year to get over there. The total mass is 19. The difficulty for the next maneuver is 3, which comes to 57. If we fire the Atlas to help out the ions, that takes care of 27 of it. What's left over is 30. And that's perfect that we have the right number. We've got 6 ions at 5 each. And that's 30, so we only have to fire for 1 year. 6 times 5 times 1. So we come over here, fire for 1 year, and calendar clicks over. It's there. All right, that's great. We drop the Soyuz down, and he takes off. As I mentioned at the beginning, this is 13 times 6. That's 78. Soyuz has 80, so that's perfect. Up it goes. Joins the return vehicle. And we start heading back to Earth. This time it's 3 difficulty times, oh, we have lots more mass now. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that's 30. And once again, we've got just the right number of ions to make it only take 1 year. Boom. Yuri eats his space ice cream. Take the time token off, and we can do another maneuver. Again, it's 3. This time it's only 9 mass. So 27, again, is covered by the 5 times 6 times 1 for the ions. So another year in space. Some more supplies eaten. A little spacewalk maybe. And we arrive at Earth orbit. Hopefully your re-entry and landing are reliable, which they probably were because you landed on Venus. And he's home. Hooray! So one last thing I want to go over that's often overlooked is fast travel. Ions can be pretty useful for fast travel between Earth and Mars if you are trying to resupply an expedition that's on Mars and needs food. So let me show you how to do that. In this example I'm going to do, it's pretty much the same whether you use the components I'm going to show or if you use double the components, because the math works out to be the same whether they're the same spaceship together or separate spaceships going at the same time. So how fast travel works is you can actually cut the time in half, round it up, if you also double the difficulty. Now in most cases with conventional rockets, this is not going to work. But with ions, because they're so light, it actually can work in a few cases, like the one I'm going to show. So let's say you've got a mission on Mars and you're trying to airdrop them some supplies. So in order to take 2 supplies to them with an ion thruster, we have to do 3 mass times 5 difficulty has to equal 5 thrust times 1 ion times how many years? Well, 3, because 3 times 5 equals 5 times 3. And it has to be 3 because Mars shows us that we have to spend at least 3 years to do this maneuver. So we do that. I do that for 3 years. Okay, let's fast forward. 1, 2, 3. We're there. And we drop the supplies down to Mars. And now we don't want to take 3 years to get back because we only delivered them 2 supplies. So really that's why you would probably do this with 2 ion thrusters and 4 supplies. But we want to get back much faster. But again, the maneuver is telling us that it needs to take 3 years. So we're going to do fast travel. So if we cut that in half to 2 years, remember it's rounded up, we have to double the difficulty to 10. So it's a good thing there's nothing on these engines, because 1 mass times 10, now if we were carrying anything, we wouldn't be able to get back because the single ion thruster only does 5 thrust per year. We're shooting for 2 years, so that's perfect. That it's going to fire for 2 years, for 2 times 5 will equal 1 times 10. This is doubled. So that's why we couldn't double on the way out, because we were carrying supplies. And that would have made the thrust requirement more than the ion could carry. In this situation, in this type of resupply maneuver, at double speed, the ion thruster can only carry itself. But that's still suitable for returning to Earth quickly, and hopefully you had some other supplies waiting, or you have a year to get them up there and meet the resupply ship. This time you're a little smarter. You've got 2 ions and 4 supplies, but the math is the same. We've got 6 times 5 is 30. And now we've got 2 ions firing for 3 years. So 2 ions for 1 year is 10, meaning 2 ions for 3 years is 30. Perfect. We're on our way. Another 3 years, and we can deliver 4 supplies. And then again, 10 times 2 is 20. But now that we've got 2, we're doing 5 times 2 times 2 years of firing is also 20. And so you can just keep going back and forth and hopefully eventually get your astronauts back from Mars if that's what you're trying to do. So that's pretty much it. I showed you some planning with the ion thrusters, how to rendezvous with a faster ion ship to augment your travel time, and how to do fast travel between Earth and Mars orbit with ion thrusters for a resupply mission. If you have any other questions, please ask them in the comments below or on Boardgamegeek's Leaving Earth forum. Thanks for watching.